Hi folks, welcome to Sorting Myself Out. Today will be part 2 of Dr. Roger Strachan's Origins of Self, Soul, Spirit, his model of psychology. You can expect us to actually do this introductory series in 3 parts, and then we'll just continue to go deeper and deeper into his work, and then we'll go on to part 4, part 5, etc. So I'm just going to title them in numerical order from 1 until however many we end up doing together, so you can follow the series in a linear fashion if you desire to do so. Today we get into behavior modification and free will versus determinism, and how free will is a very important part of Dr. Strachan's model. He also starts talking about subpersonalities. He introduces some of his subpersonalities, and he refers to the totality of subpersonalities as the mandala. So when you see those sticky notes in the background of our conversation, those are both of our own personal mandalas of subpersonalities that we've identified. And that'll help you when he starts to identify, here's my warrior, or here's another part of me, so that you can see, so you can follow along with what he's talking about. And the subpersonalities of the model will be explained more and more as the series progresses, so don't worry if you feel a little bit lost at first. It'll all start making sense. I really hope you enjoy Dr. Strachan's elaboration on his self-soul-spirit model and his understanding of psychology.
In 1965, UCLA was doing some great work with autism, both understanding, research around the biological ways of approaching, and they chose a way of working with autistic children using behavior modification. So they invited all of us in Southern California at the different universities. I happened to be at Pepperdine University, and we went over to watch the movie. And we watched the movie, and you could see all of the aspects of reaching the stimulus, the response by the child, and the reward, and the elemental satisfaction. And when they were done with the movie, I said, did it ever cross your guys' mind that there might be multiple X's in here? What does that mean? The X factor is the one you try to evaluate, okay? And this was the change in accepting a new behavior or way of approaching it, okay? So I said, rerun the film. So as they were rerunning it, I said, stop. Did you see the therapist touch that child and the smile on the child's face? And autistic children don't typically like to be touched. Did you see the interaction between the two? Do you think it might have had something to do in a reward factor to the response? Move it on. Did you see the smile on the therapist's face and the reciprocal? Did you see the congratulations? And they said, oh my God. I said, yes, the human factors of emotions in that interaction with the child were just as important as the star you gave the child to trade it in for an M&M.
So he could have been training the therapist to give him an M&M.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
The point is that the child was being changed within as much by the human interaction
Oh, I see.
by the actual stimulus response.
I see.
Reward outcome. Now, guess what? Behavior modification has improved and improved and improved. So they could take the same thing with a trauma and use it and work through. The advantage of the self-soul-spirit model is you have all the different models. You have all the different parts.
Mm-hmm.
So behavior modification works wonderfully with this, but not as well as Gestalt. Because Gestalt gets rid of all structure altogether, and you stay in the here and moment. And you work through every aspect of the feelings of that moment. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is only momentarily. The goal is not ultimate change. Okay? So you may have to have a repeating of these. Which then brings us to the key here. My colleague and I had created Center for Creative Choice because we gave the power over model away. We were done with it. It was only going to be here and here, and had the Sheldon Kopp model of we're pilgrims on the same path. And my job as facilitator is only to bring out in you what you want out and what you want dealt with. My job was not to in any way advise you how to live. Okay? I didn't have answers for you. All the answers for you are in you. Center for Creative Choice. Who's making the choice? The client. We create a center for you to make the most creative choices, given the opportunities to have venues where you get to do that. And you are constantly making choices. In the early beginnings, we tried to increase the amount of choices, and sometimes the client would say, "Oh, wow, it's too many. It's time swimming in choices." So we learned, okay, let's deal with the current choices as they are and try them out and see what happens. So you're constantly reinventing the wheel, so to speak.
Can you give an example of a choice that
Yes.
you might have?
Yes. Working with this woman, she's involved with a alcoholic husband. She's coming in because she realizes she's enabling the process, and so we go over all the different options. She looks at them. Confrontation, divorce, a demand, ultimatum, go to AA or some treatment program. We looked at all the different things, and or simply going along with whatever is and trying to hold her own boundaries and trying not to invade and redirect her husband, okay? Well, to begin with, she wasn't ready to divorce him. So we kept working with her, getting more and more powerful personal choices. Finally, she was able to come to the point of her choice. She said, "I'll be her and you be the husband. I've looked at all the different ways I deal with your alcoholism, and I realize, number one, I've given up the choice that I can change you. I can't. That's not a good choice, because it has to be your choice. Therefore, I'm going to encourage you to seek treatment, and we'll talk about it, and I'm going to ask you if you'll go see Dr. Strachan and evaluate your alcoholism. He's an expert in that field, in addictionality, and you can work with him, and he's not going to tell you whether you aren't, but he'll walk you through the process, and you'll decide." Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the choice was goodbye. Sometimes the choice was ultimatum. Okay? Now I'll give you another example of one I've given you before, which is so classic. This guy comes in, and the woman has made the choice, you go see Strachan, or I'm divorcing you. It's an ultimatum. He comes in hot as he can be. He's been ordered there because he did not want a divorce. If he wanted a divorce, that was his choice. He would have said, "I'm not going to see Strachan, and you can kiss my ass. I'll get the divorce." Okay? It's not what he wanted. One part of him. So he comes in, and we begin to work, and I see this hot energy, and I see this, so I ask him, "Were you sent?" "Yeah, see to go see Strachan, or this marriage is over." So, "Wow, how did you feel about that?" "I hated it." And then he says to me, "Well, would you like it?" I said, "No, I'd hate it too." "Well," and then we keep working on, and I keep having him tell me how he dislikes us and why he doesn't like being ordered around and on and on. And then I see another part, so I want to question. You never identify part, you ask the client. There's the Center for Creative Choice. Is there another part of you that's going to sabotage anything you and I do together? That you'll take these therapy sessions and destroy them? And he said, yeah. I said, would you call him the saboteur? He said, yeah, I like that. I'll sabotage everything we try to do. Well, what does that mean? Well, I won't pay for the bill. I'll tell my wife you're a charlatan. I'll tell her we should seek someone else. I'll tell her I'm not getting anything out of it. And I'll miss appointments. And I say to the two of them, that's it. The session's done. You guys can leave. And I'm not charging you for today. What? What do we go home and tell our wife? I said, I don't know, but you think I want to work with a couple of jerks like you? One that doesn't want to be here in the first place, and one is going to sabotage everything that we try to do together. It's the dead in the water. I'm no dummy. You can't pay me enough. So he's heading toward the door. He said, wait. I said, is there another part? Yeah. There's a part of me that's a lover, that loves her, that's a husband. I have as much trouble with these two guys as she does. So, we got a new contract here. I'll work with you, you work with them.
Beautiful.
I'll do the double chair work with you, and you get strong enough and how you're going to do it, then you work with them. Therefore, he said, oh, that's wonderful, because there are a lot of times when I say, as the husband, we can work this out, honey. And these other guys jump in and we don't work it out. So that's what we did. Eventually invited his wife in, and then we went into marital therapy, and I brought a female therapist to go. Okay, now, choice is what we have. So the other premise that's built on this foundation is free will. We live in the here and now. We have free will to make any choice. When Freud began to develop, Zwingli, a minister in Europe, okay, had wide following. He believed in predestination. So therefore, God is the puppeteer and we're the puppets. Doesn't matter what you do, because he's pulling all the strings. Your life's already done planned. Then you can think you're doing something, but it's not. You have no free will. Today, we have some people who believe we have no free will.
A lot of scientists believe that.
We're all programmed. We're all programmed. Well, not as many as you would think. More believe in the free will. Okay. Once you have the idea you have free will, you then have choice. So the other origin here that I bring is you have these choices. You can choose to do what you want. Therefore, that develops in the working with the mandala when you know all the parts. Show up, bring whatever part you want to the table, or as many. Act upon them, and then take responsibility.
Right, and if there's no free will, there's no personal responsibility.
Exactly.
So what's your premise for free will versus determinism? How do you lay it out philosophically?
By observation, by working with people that are independent and don't choose, by people who break against and are not influenced by others. My own case, when I dropped out in 1973 to 75 and completed the dropout by moving, none of my academic mentors liked it. They were actually angry with me. You're the fair-haired boy. You should be out teaching. We want to send you to university. You're 30 years in the head of psychology. How dare you take all this training and go, live down there in Bisbee in your overalls. It's a leftover hippie. Okay. Now, I made no explanation. They asked for one, I don't know. And they said, well, why? I said, because I want to. That's it.
The determinist might say you had no other choice but to want to.
But that's circular reasoning.
So explain that.
If I had no other choice, then why wouldn't I just as soon respond to the culture and my mentors and stay on my job?
Your genes, I don't know. They could make all sorts of art. They make all sorts of interesting
They can make
arguments.
all sorts, but it's still circular reasoning. They still go, you did what you did because you did what you did.
Right. Yeah, that's
That's
what
right.
I always say too.
Yeah, but the point is,
But
I
you
did
can't
what I
argue
did
with that.
because I want to,
Right.
not because I was
But
forced
then
to.
they say you wanted to because you couldn't help.
Again,
but
I
wanted to.
use in my
Here we
teaching
go.
another example that I've asked of you. Sophie's Choice, the movie. Sophie is in front of the lieutenant. He's saying, choose between your two children, and I'll let the two of you live, and one's going to the camps with no return.
Mm-hmm.
And Sophie bought the game. She made a choice. That's not the only choice she had. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'll play Sophie. You give me you be the lieutenant.
You've got the choice between two kids. You have to send one of them to die, and you can keep the other one. What are you going to do?
Right now, I push down my child. You look down. Okay?
Okay.
I come and I hit you right in the nuts. I then grab for your pistol and I blow your brains away.
Warrior? That part of you?
Yeah. Another choice. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that.
You got to choose between these two kids.
I'm not choosing. I'm not playing your game. There's no way you can put me into a game of your choice. You're the one with all the power. If this is power with, then let's negotiate. I'll tell you what I'd like. Give me your gun, and you can choose between whether you get 3 bullets in your head or 1.
So there's lots of different options.
Oh, on and on. I can go for hours.
Right.
I can start crying.
Right.
I could grab my 2 children and yell into the other Gestapos that are there.
Right. But then the determinist will say the choice you made was the only choice you could make.
That's still circular reasoning.
But does circular reasoning invalidate?
There's no circular reasoning in what I'm doing.
But my question is, does circular reasoning invalidate the premise of determinism?
Yes.
Why so? That's what I want to understand.
Because, okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Ask me what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
I'm keeping the elephants away. Tell me there are no elephants around
There's
here.
no elephants around.
Must be working.
Right. So you can argue that all day.
Yeah,
There's no evidence for it.
it doesn't matter. The reaction of anybody depends on their own personal power. Sophie did not have a lot of personal power. For the rest of her life, that decision she made, influenced by attraction connection to more self-punitive.
Wow.
She carried on what he did in a moment and incorporated it for the rest of her life. Here's what I used to say to people in working this model. Yes is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. We seldom do that. We explain, I never saw a lion look at, let's take the head of his tribe, okay? So here's the male lion. I never once watched a male lion saying, oh, you know what? We're decimating the wildebeest group here. I think we need to leave this group alone in the sake of ecology. And we'll go over here and work on these deer-like creatures, okay? He keeps eating the wildebeest, and he doesn't even hunt. She hunts for him. His whole group of ladies hunt. When they brought something down, he walks up. He doesn't say, oh, ladies first. He walks up, and he gets the first thing. When he's done, he burps, goes away, and then the others get to come in.
They don't explain anything.
They don't explain. We're the only species that makes up stories why we just did what we did.
Right.
Okay, now, it doesn't mean that animals don't have emotions. It doesn't mean that they don't learn. It doesn't mean that they can't act out of different phenomena. We just had a great story of a grizzly mother with her 2 cubs crossing this shallow lake, but they had to swim. And one of them got to shore with her, and the other didn't and was drowning. And these guys had seen this whole scene, and they were in their fishing boat. And one guy said, "Hurry up!" And he jumped out of the boat and rescued the bear. And Mother saw all of this. And then Mother comes back into the water, little baby safe. And the guy in the boat says to his partner who had just, rescued the little bear, "Get back in here. Mother's going to eat you alive." And he said, "I don't think so. I don't feel the energy." And the mother bear came over and hugged him.
Hey folks, thank you for tuning in to Sorting Myself Out for another episode with Dr. Roger Strachan. I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss anything going forward.